right, welcome everyone to this special on-the-ground episode of Working People, a podcast about the lives, jobs, dreams, and struggles of the working class today. Brought to you in partnership with In These Times magazine and the Real News Network, produced by Jules Taylor and made possible by the support of listeners like you. My name is Maximilian Alvarez, and I am reporting from the Johns Hopkins University East Baltimore campus on Tuesday, February 20th, where graduate student workers are holding the first of two practice pickets today. As we previously reported at The Real News, it was a year ago that grad workers at Hopkins held and overwhelmingly won their union election, voting to unionize under the banner of Teachers and Researchers United, which is affiliated with United Electrical, Radio, and Machine Workers, or UE. While workers celebrated their historic union victory, bargaining a first contract with the university administration has been another story. 1 year after their election victory, we are here because workers feel they are hitting a dead end at the bargaining table, and so they are hitting the streets, putting on practice picket lines to build a credible strike threat and to show the university administration what is in store if more progress is not made at the bargaining table soon.
You all for coming out, making your voices heard. You're one of the first batch of about 400 more people that are coming throughout the day. I believe the admin will feel this and feel pressure to give us a just and fair contract. I and many of us at the bargaining committee, we've been fighting for the last 9 months, fighting for a just and fair contract against our obstructionist and uncaring administration, and we will see them again at the bargaining table on Thursday. We, as the bargaining committee, can make our best effort to move the admin in the room, but there is only so much that can be won at the bargaining table. Our power does not come from how eloquently we can tell some deans and lawyers in a conference room that we deserve a fair contract. There is no magic set of words that will suddenly convince the administration to abandon their cruelty and complete disregard for us as workers. The only true leverage we have is threatening to collectively withhold our labor from this university. They refuse to acknowledge our value to this university and are acting as if our labor isn't what drives this university. We have reached a point in the negotiations where the only way forward is to unequivocally show the administration that without us, this place grinds to a halt. We need to build a credible strike threat and make it so they can no longer be willfully ignorant of our power. The fact is that you, the members of TRUE, have the final say in the contract that we win. If you want a higher salary, you must build and help us build a credible strike threat. If you want a strong union, build a credible strike threat. If you want better health care, help us build a credible strike threat. We have seen time and time again that the university admin moves when they see our power through collective action. Let's make things simple for them. Let's all tell Hopkins here and now, all of us here and the thousands that make up TRUE UE are ready to exercise our power and demand the contract that we deserve. And if we don't get it, shut it down! In order to build this credible strike threat, we have a very important meeting coming up on March 5th. This is the GMM where we will have all of our voices heard, and we will talk about what needs to be done in order to build this credible strike threat. So, I have one ask of you, RSVP for this GMM, and help us win a fair contract and take all that we deserve from the administration. I'll be holding RSVP signs. Please pull out your phones now and scan this QR code and register to be at the next GMM. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Emily Hoppy. I'm a fourth-year PhD worker in the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing. I came to Hopkins for college almost 20 years ago, in 2005. After my Bachelor of Arts, I stayed for my Bachelor in Nursing, and then I worked as a staff nurse and nurse practitioner. In 2020, I returned to the university to get my PhD in nursing. Spending this much time at Hopkins has made me question a lot of things, including most of my life choices. But if there's one thing I have never been clearer about today, it is that union power is absolutely necessary. It is necessary to make Hopkins change how it treats workers, and that is why they are so scared of our power as a union. Did you know that nurses at Johns Hopkins Hospital tried to unionize, most recently in 2018? The hospital responded with union-busting tactics, such as denying nurses access to break rooms and prohibiting nurses from talking about the union at work. The National Labor Relations Board ultimately found that by taking these actions, Johns Hopkins broke the law. We can see that Johns Hopkins is terrified of union power because unions will force Johns Hopkins to change. Nurses at other hospitals have used union power not only to achieve fair wages, but also to ensure safe nurse-to-patient ratios, access to PPE, and reduction of violence within hospitals. These are changes that benefit not only nurses, but the patients and communities that nurses serve. We have an opportunity to make a similarly huge impact at True UE with our collective power. I'm passionate about the work we do as a union for many reasons, and I'm going to talk about two of them today. The first is that we face multiple public health crises that can only be solved by experts whose roots are in the communities of those most impacted by these crises. However, these very same people face unnecessary administration-made barriers to doctoral education. For example, we have a Black maternal health crisis in this country. Nationally, Black women are 3 times as likely to die in childbirth as white women. It is a matter of life and death that Black women lead the way in ending this crisis, and yet Black women face so many barriers to doctoral education rooted in structural racism, misogyny, and other social forces that Johns Hopkins is upholding with their actions. As PhD workers, they are denied time off to attend to care for their own family members, denied adequate pay to be financially secure, and face harassment and discrimination at work. Our colleagues are best equipped to lead us toward life-saving solutions. Our colleagues who are best equipped to lead us toward life-saving solutions also face the most barriers and receive inadequate support in their quest to do so, and this must change. Another reason I am so passionate about our work as a union is that I have witnessed my coworkers suffer from the precarity and inhumanity of our working conditions, and I am certain it doesn't need to be this way. As a nurse, I donated to a paid time off pool so a fellow nurse could remain at the bedside of her premature NICU baby instead of having to return to work. Shame! As a graduate worker, I have sat with friends who are parents of young children as we tried to figure out where their funding would come from next year, funding that was literally feeding their families. It really doesn't need to be this way, and we have the power to change it. Hopkins researchers say that housing stability is a core component of health, yet 86% of our members are rent-burdened. Hopkins researchers say that food insecurity is associated with lower graduation rates, yet roughly a quarter of graduate students are food insecure. And Hopkins researchers have identified clear evidence that poverty is linked to depression, yet the administration continues to return counteroffers on compensation and benefits that are woefully inadequate. We need union power to protect workers from exploitation, discrimination, and harassment. We need union power to insist on fair compensation and the ability to become expert scholars without being driven into poverty and debt. We need union power to push back against policies that throw our neighbors under the bus and put our campus community and neighboring communities at risk, including from abuse of power and discriminatory policing. We need union power to create working conditions where we are respected as workers and where we can value our work as work. The administration seems to believe that a career in scholarship is only for those who are married to wealthy spouses, are privileged with generational wealth, and have no children or caregiving responsibilities. But we have the power to tell them otherwise. We can tell them that we all belong here, that those of us who are struggling to make this work are the ones who most deserve to be here. Let's tell them about a different, better, inclusive, thriving vision of graduate school where we don't have to suffer, where we don't have to choose between visiting our dying family members and being disciplined for time away, where we don't have to choose between completing our dissertation and working 3 other jobs. We are here to demand union power for a better life for all of us, and I am so excited to see it happen, and I will strike for it if I have to.
We got the power!
What kind of power?
Union power!
What do we want?
Fair contract!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Fair contract!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Fair contract!
When do we want it?
Now!
And if we don't get it,
Bro, I gotta get a picture of you with that flag in front of this at some point before I leave.
get it,
Shut it down!
who are we?
UE!
Who are we?
UE!
Who are we?
UE!
Union!
Power!
Union!
Power!
Union!
Power!
When I say strike, you say ready! Strike!
Ready!
Strike!
Ready!
Strike!
Ready!
Hey, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? How's everybody feeling? My name is Zeke Cohen. I represent District 1 on the Baltimore City Council, and I am proud to be standing with you on the picket line today. I wanted to come here because I studied at this school. I got my graduate degree here. My wife studied medicine here. She did her residency here. This institution was a leader in the COVID fight, but when you love a place, you reserve the right to criticize a place. And in this case, we need Johns Hopkins to do better by its workers. And let me be clear, the thing that made my graduate degree great wasn't the leadership of the institution, it was the working people. It was the janitors and the administrative staff. It was the adjuncts. It was the other grad students who were working. It was the workers that made Johns Hopkins great, and it is the workers that deserve an excellent union contract. Let me say this. We are part of a rising tide of organized labor across this city and across this country. And I'll say this too. I hope we don't have to strike, but if we do, I will stand here with you on the picket line and represent the Baltimore City Council in supporting the workers in your demands. Let me close by saying this. No matter what, no matter the barriers you face, we deserve a union right here at Johns Hopkins. And I stand with you. Thank you for being out here today, and I look forward to being back in the picket line whenever.
Sure. Hi, I'm Emily Hoppy. I am a 4th-year PhD worker at the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing. I'm also a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and I'm an organizer. I've been an organizer with True UE for about a year now.
Hi, I'm John B. Madhani. I'm a 4th-year graduate worker in physics and astronomy, and I'm a member of the bargaining committee, and I've also been organizing with True UE for about 3.5 years.
Well, Javi, Emily, thank you both so much for chatting with me. We are literally standing here on the picket line in front of, the Johns Hopkins Hospital, East Baltimore campus. Your fellow grad workers and union members are marching with picket signs about 10 feet away from where we are currently standing. I was wondering if we could start here and just give listeners a sense of where we are and why you're here and what's going on. And then we'll sort of dig back into the story of how we ended up here.
Okay, we're at our True UE first practice picket, which is happening in front of the Johns Hopkins Hospital Dome, and will continue on the Homewood campus this afternoon. And our coworkers have come out here to let the Johns Hopkins administration know that we are organized, we are getting frustrated with contract negotiations, and we are ready to continue to escalate.
So our core demands are the recognition of our work, primarily our research as work in the contract that deserves contract protections. We also want fair wages and benefits, a fair compensation for the kind of work and labor we provide to the university. And then also we really want a union shop. Which is, union shop means we want long-term union security, and of course this is something that the university wants to withhold from us in order to weaken our union power here. So yeah, our members are really turning up the heat today and making sure that these three demands come through really clear to the administration.
I always love this as a former grad worker myself. In fact, the only union job I've ever had was at the University of Michigan as a grad worker. Shout out to GEO. But this part of the university's argument always tickled me, where they say, grad workers aren't workers. The work you do is not work. You're learning, right? Like you're getting training. And it's like, all right, motherfucker, let's see how the university does without it then, right? And so I'm just speaking for myself, no one else here, but that part always, stuck out to me as ridiculous. And it seems I'm not alone, right? I mean, it seems like that is the kind of message that y'all are sending to the university, building this strike threat. Like I'm sensing kind of echoes here of what we saw over the past year with the UPS Teamsters, with the UAW auto workers, building a contract campaign, doing these practice pickets, showing the companies, the employers, what a credible strike threat you have and the strength of the membership, because that helps at the bargaining table, right? I mean, it lets the employer know that you're serious. So I want to ask, what brought us to this point? The last time we had folks from this union on was a year ago, right when y'all had the, historic and overwhelming election where grad workers voted to join or to form a union. So what's been happening since then at the bargaining table? Can you tell us a little more about what kind of reaction you've been getting from the university? What has been the holdup, and what brought us to this point here?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. We had this massive victory after the election. We won with 97%, and that really set us up for a lot of power at the bargaining table, knowing that our membership was really behind us and fighting for this fair contract. And since then, we started off with our non-economic proposals, including stuff like non-discrimination, grievance procedures, et cetera. And every step of the way, we've really, really had to fight tooth and nail to win these protections. And it took incredible movement from our membership in order to get them to move the needle on things that we consider basic protections, like protections against sexual harassment, protections against abuse from advisors in terms of a strong non-discrimination proposal. And so it's truly just been a membership-led effort in terms of making sure the admin has a pulse on how angry our members are that they're being disrespected and denied these rights at the bargaining table. So now we are in this next stage of the contract fight in which we are introduce the economic versions of our proposals. That includes stuff like fair compensation and benefits, and we are just being hit with the most incredible disrespect for the kind of labor we do. One, we already talked about the fact that they don't recognize our research as work, and specifically they want to withhold a fair and due process for disciplining and discharging us because they believe that research is academic and what we do is, training, and that has nothing to do with a contract, when we know that this is a primary way in which they fire us as employees. And so that's absolutely not acceptable to our membership. And so, yeah, we're really hitting this wall with them, and it's time for us to kind of leverage our labor, because ultimately this is, a conflict between our labor and their capital, and they want to maintain this power imbalance in which they can continue denying us these rights because it allows them to maintain this, power imbalance. And we unionized because we need to have a fair say in our working conditions, and this is our first step in kind of making sure that they understand that this is a real threat and that our members are agitated, they're mobilized, and we will leverage that labor.
And can I just ask one quick question? I've been reading, some of the reports about bargaining. Is the university's main argument that the money's not there, or that you're not workers and don't deserve it?
That's precisely it. They have told us that their offer of $40,000 with no benefits is incredibly generous for what we do, and that is extremely disrespectful, knowing that doesn't even cover the cost of living, that doesn't cover the range of experiences that graduate workers go through in the time at Johns Hopkins. And so they think that you're being so generous. That's how deeply they don't value our work and labor. And so this is not about them not having money. They're functionally, they're a hedge fund who sits on billions of dollars of money, and they just don't want us to have access to that.
Yeah, and I spoke about this earlier, but they really are not acknowledging that people need to eat food, people need to live in houses, and without being paid, people who come here are not able to do that unless they have apparently what they think we should have, which is generational wealth or another family member who will provide for us while we pursue this eccentric hobby. So they clearly don't truly value our work as work, and it also has this very insidious effect of excluding people from academia very directly, I think. I also want to say that so John V kind of talked about what's been going on with bargaining. On the organizing side, we've been really building up an amazing infrastructure, and while it is very frustrating to see them stalling at the bargaining table, every time they come back to us with a meaningless counterproposal, we get new members. And it's easier for us to help people to see that the administration does not care about them and will not do anything for them unless they are forced to. So that's where we're finding ourselves, is that there's just this huge momentum, not only because of the work that we're doing, but because of the work that Hopkins is doing for us.
Yeah, speaking of the sort of barriers to different types of workers being able to live and work in academia, again, I remember coming to the University of Michigan, coasting on the savings I had accrued from working in restaurants in Chicago, spending all of that on my apartment, security deposit, and a U-Haul. And when I told the university, I didn't have money to get by in Ann Arbor, they told me take out a lot more credit cards, right? Or ask family. That was essentially their response. I just wanted to add that for folks listening to give a little texture what we're talking about here. In academia, just like nonprofits, just like so many other jobs where you are expected to sort of just be grateful that you have a place, and yet you're paid as if you don't need to have basic necessities like a roof over your head and food on your table. And that's really what we're talking about here. And we are talking on February 20th, as I said at the top, in front of the East Baltimore Johns Hopkins campus. Y'all are going to be picketing on across town later today. So I wanted to ask, what happens next? What should folks in and around the city and beyond be looking forward to? And what can folks do to help?
Yeah, so as Emily said, we're really starting to focus organizing our members around building a credible strike threat. Do this out of an absolute necessity and not out of a choice, but they have forced our hand kind of in terms of making sure that our members are now being talked to and organized around this idea of building a credible strike threat. So I think in terms of community support, it really, really helps when we have public-facing events like this to see community show up in public and acknowledge that the way we are being treated is undignified and that they stand in support with us.
Yeah, no, just join us in our sort of readiness to stand up to Hopkins for our members. And the other thing is that we are facing the potential of a strike, and we have members who are starting to think about how they're going to deal with financial crises or other issues that may come up if pay is stopped. And so we are starting a strike fund, and if there are organizations in the community who have the resources and want to show support and solidarity in that way, that is another avenue for that.
All right, gang, that's going to wrap things up for us this week. As always, thank you for listening and thank you for caring. We'll see y'all back here next week for another episode of Working People. And if you cannot wait that long, then go subscribe to our Patreon and check out the other awesome bonus episodes that we've got there for our patrons. And we've got a lot more new, incredible bonus episodes coming your way. You guys don't want to miss it. And go explore all the great work that we're doing over at the Real News Network, where we do grassroots journalism that lifts up the voices and stories from the front lines of struggle. Sign up for the Real News newsletter so you never miss a story, and help us do more work like this by going to therealnews.com/donate and becoming a supporter today. I'm Maximilian Alvarez. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Solidarity forever.
When my face you no longer see, I live on, yes, I live on. Wherever we go, we are going to roll the Union on a song. I live on, yes, I live on. Wherever hungry are we, just as hungry can be. The song, I live on, yes, I live on. Where mean things are happening in this land, is read a song, I live on, yes, I live on. Wherever the book, mean things are happening in this land is read, I live on, yes, I live on. Wherever the videotape of me is shown, I live on, yes, I live on. If I have help to make this a better world to live in, I'll live on, yes, I'll live on. When my body is silent and in some lonesome grave, I live on, yes, I live on. When my songs and poems are read, I live on, yes, I live on.